Hello and welcome to the Cavern of Terror.
Okay guys, so I know it has been a very, very long time since I've done a video. I think it's been over a month, almost 2 months now, and I feel really bad about it. A lot of things have been going on, and I really did want to do this in front of the camera, but I'm just not ready for it. I'm tweaking a few things for the Cavern of Terror, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've been watching Supernatural and a lot of television shows, my favorite television shows, and I wanted to do something in the way of television reviews on my channel. And I wanted to do something a little bit different, as I've said, different to my channel, where I do an audio style review, a little bit longer, a little bit more podcast style. And I figured what perfect show to do would be Supernatural, one of my favorite shows. So I decided that I'm going to review every single episode of Supernatural. I know it's like doing Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run. It is insane. It's super long. It's 13, almost 14 years of television that I have to turn into YouTube videos. But I think it's going to be really fun to do. Supernatural is one of those shows that just will not go away. It just won't. It was one of the shows that I watched when I was back in high school. The show started in 2005, so I was about 15 back then. And I really didn't get around to watching it until it was probably in season 5. But I've seen the first few seasons a few times at this point. Also, to keep with the horror aspect of my channel, let's talk about a horror-themed show. And I have reviewed the movies that Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, who play Dean and Sam Winchester on Supernatural. I have reviewed My Bloody Valentine 3D with Jensen Ackles. I have a review for that if you want to go check it out. I've also reviewed the Friday the 13th remake with Jared Padalecki. Now, Jensen Ackles is probably one of my favorite actors, and I've seen him in pretty much everything he's been on. I've seen him on the second season of Smallville, where he played the assistant football coach. I've seen him on Dark Angel. There are some deep cuts for you guys there for a show that used to be on Fox back in the day. It was a Jessica Alba vehicle. He played a certain rebellious character that may or may not have some influence on his character on Supernatural. I've also followed his career in animation, where he played Jason Todd, the Red Hood, the former Robin in Red Hood, Under the Red Hood. Really, really good Batman animated film. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It is awesome. When Supernatural inevitably ends, my hope is that they cast Jensen Ackles as an older Hal Jordan in the Arrowverse. They've mentioned Ferris Air Base. They've shown Hal Jordan's jacket in a certain episode of, I think it was Arrow or Flash. I can't remember which one it was, but it would be really cool to see him on another CW show as a hero. I think he could play a perfect Hal Jordan. So there's enough backstory. Let's get into this first episode. And as I said, this is going to be like a review slash podcast type thing for an episode. And we're going to talk about everything that happened in the episode. We're going to talk about future episodes if this takes off. We're already at 4 minutes, so this is probably going to be a long video. So basically how this starts is we get a flashback to Lawrence, Kansas. This is 22 years ago. We get the Winchester family, John, Mary, Dean, and Sam. Now Sam is a baby here. Everything seems to be going pretty well. It's nighttime. The boys are going to bed. All of a sudden, there is a intruder in the house. Mary goes crazy. John goes to go rescue her. And all of a sudden, she's on the ceiling and there's flames and it gets really creepy. Welcome to Supernatural. That is your intro scene to the first episode. I know, crazy, right? Cue the Supernatural intro. Mary dies a mysterious death, which leaves a dangling thread, and everyone loves dangling threads. I know I do. Flash forward 22 years into the future, because I can't say present day, because that was almost 13 years ago now. Wow, I'm old. Sam is shown to be a college student, and The one thing I have to say about this scene here with Aaron Palicki, or I forget her name, Adrienne Palicki, who was almost on a CW run Wonder Woman show. CW ran Wonder Woman show. I think there's a pilot out there somewhere. If you dig hard enough on YouTube, I think you can find it, where she plays Sam's girlfriend, Jessica Moore. And the one thing I have to say about this opening here is that Sam's acting is not the greatest. Jared Padalecki is not the strongest character in this scene. His delivery is a little bit wooden, and it does fortunately get better throughout the series. But we are also introduced to Dean Winchester, his brother, played by Jensen Ackles, and this scene itself shows off a lot of the really good cinematography that you get in this show. There are some episodes that look a little too over-polished in season 1, but they do seem to follow the rest of the shows, or the rest of the shows follow suit with Supernatural. Production-wise, the way it looks, the cinematography, a lot of these shows look very similar because a lot of them take place in the same universe. And if you haven't seen Supernatural, I guess a show that you could compare it to would be Vampire Diaries. The cinematography on Vampire Diaries and Supernatural are very similar. Actually, there's a lot of similarities between those two shows. we get some excellent cinematography with shadows, especially the courtyard scene, which is very noir. A lot of shadows on their faces and like hidden in the corner, which is pretty cool. And we do get some amazing fight choreography between the two characters. I really, really enjoyed that. I mean, there's not a whole lot of shaky cam. There's not a whole lot of crossover, or close-ups, not crossovers. I don't know what I'm talking about. They fight. They do fight. And what happens here is we get a little bit of an info dump. We find out what happened after Mary was killed 22 years ago. It seems that, John went into looking up what happened and what he could do, and it seems like he trained both these boys to basically essentially be monster hunters, which is possibly the coolest thing of all time. I'm just saying, that's pretty cool. Long story short, Dean recruits his brother to help him find his father, John Winchester, who has disappeared. And if you heard that, that was my iPad. And John Winchester is played by the amazingly talented Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Hello there, Rick. Man, I love him as Negan. Probably one of the best things about The Walking Dead in the past 2 seasons. So they agree to go out to Jericho, California, because Dean has shown Sam some evidence that there might be some eerie things going on out there. So let's get into the meat of this episode, and the meat would be that this is about a white woman. This is also a Monster of the Week episode, so it's very cool to start the show out with a Monster of the Week episode. We're not hitting you with a lot of exposition and heavy story in the first episode. We have a whole season to go over the heavy story and the overarching story. Monster of the Week episodes even go back to X-Files. And before that was probably Twilight Zone or The Outer Limits or shows like that where they had like a Monster of the Week episode. And they've even done Monster of the Week on Smallville. And I think that's kind of where they got the inspiration for this show I don't know, because it could go even further back, because Buffy was the same way. You could actually compare Buffy and Smallville together to being very, very similar. I mean, one's about a vampire hunter and one's about a superhero Clark Kent, but I still think that, that is very similar, and these are very similar. But let's try to stick with the Supernatural X-Files type of similarities, because I think that's where it is the most here. We don't get a lot in this episode. It's a lot of building. There's a lot of build up in this episode with their characters. We get the ingenuity of Dean. We get to see, you know, how he's been trained and how he knows how to get out of certain situations, like how he gets out of the police station, which is pretty badass. I mean, he uses a paperclip to get out of handcuffs. I think that's really cool. And they show that he is a badass. I mean, he pumps lead into a ghost's head. Like, we don't know that the gun is going to kill this ghost, but he tries. And we also get the, you know, the intelligence of Sam, you know, his lore and knowledge, and that will become a thing over the series, where we realize that he's more than just a really big dude. And you'll get those references as the series goes on, that a lot of people like to talk about Sam's size. I mean, Crowley even calls him Moose, that he's so big. There's a spooky atmosphere with this episode, especially in the car scenes with the woman, and they're just weird. They're just awkward and, you know, just really creepy to watch, and that keeps you in the tone. And the music is another thing that really keeps the show in this supernatural aspect. It keeps it really creepy. I love the music. The music of Supernatural is right up there with the music in Arrow. I love the music in Arrow because the music in Arrow really sets the tone for that show. It's very swashbuckling, very, you know, high energy, and that's what that show is when it goes into action. This one keeps it really somber, keeps it really creepy, I can't talk, and eerie. I really enjoyed that. But as I said, there's a lot of build-up in this first episode. It definitely establishes the characters. There's a lot of dangling threads. John Winchester is still gone. We don't know where he is by the end of this episode. We know that he leaves his book for his boys, and that's a huge thing. Like, John Winchester does not leave that book behind, and he leaves it for Dean. He leaves it for Dean to go to the next place that, there's my iPad again, to go to the next place where he wants them to hunt. And we'll find that out in episode 2. But it's very interesting here to show it, because that's having you connect the dots, where John Winchester really wants his boys to do what he wanted to do. And we'll find out why he wants them to do that later in this series, a little bit later than I wanted it to be. But we'll find that out later. Getting to the end of the episode, we do find out that the boys find out what happened. Here we find out that the husband was cheating on her, or did cheat on her at one point, and she ends up killing herself after she finds out that she drowned her kids. She becomes a woman in white. Well, they take her home and find out that when she does go home, the spirits of her children find her, and they basically take her to the underworld. It's kind of weird how it happens, and it's very quick, but there has to be an ending somehow. But the real ending is when we take Sam back. I did not mention at the very beginning of this episode that we find out Sam has an interview for a law school. He wanted to be a lawyer. So he only had a couple days to go out with Dean, to go out to California and try to find their father. Dean successfully brings him back to the college that he goes to, and we get Sam in his dorm room where he lives with Jessica, his girlfriend, to find out that we get a mirrored episode. We get a mirrored ending, not mirrored episode, mirrored ending to the beginning of this, where we find out Jessica dies the same way his mother died. I know, my mind has been blown. So, my mind was blown then. My mind is still blown. Sometimes I watch this. This is about the 4th or 5th time I've seen this episode. But, we get a very eager Sam. We get a Sam that wants to help his brother and try to find out what killed his mother and what killed his girlfriend. And that's basically episode 1. I never get tired of this episode. I've seen it, like I said, 4 or 5 times now, and I can watch it over and over again with new people that haven't seen it. And I know I might have not covered everything you wanted me to cover, but that's in a nutshell the first episode of Supernatural. And if you guys want me to keep doing these, please let me know down in the comments down below. Give this video a like if you liked it. I really want to keep doing these. This is very similar to what my buddy Jason's doing over at Sinister Cinema with Tales from the Crypt, similar to what my friend Brian Lomax is doing with the X-Files. And this is something to keep me occupied when I'm, working on in between movie reviews. I am really, really going to try to bring you guys my Insidious and Insidious 2 reviews and the rest of the Halloween franchise. I know I kind of left you guys dangling there with my Halloween 4 review with Drum Dums, my boy Lee. Guys, it is going to happen. I can't not do that for you. I can't not finish a series about halfway through, so it will be done. There will be a review for the new Halloween that we still don't have a title for. Come on, Danny McBride and David Gordon Green. We need that title. We need that trailer. I want to see it now. But guys, if you like this video and you want to see more Supernatural episode reviews, please let me know down in the comments down below. Give this video a like. Thank you for subscribing. There's another thing I want to talk about. Guys, I'm at 574 subscribers. Thank you to everybody that's gotten me here. Horror Addicts, Bloodbath & Beyond, Lee. You guys are awesome. Killer Flicks family. There's a lot of people I have to thank there. Killer Flicks is just an awesome place. And if you're not over there, you need to get over there. So this has been the Cavern of Terror. This has been the first episode review of Supernatural. I hope I see you guys in the next episode. Wendigo. Stay metal, my friends.